Hi guys, thanks for stopping by. I have a fresh cup of coffee and I am here to talk to you about some books. Today I want to talk to you about the Reading Women Challenge that I am participating in right now. Reading Women is a podcast that is all about reclaiming half the bookshelf by reading books by or about women. So these two ladies met and they bonded over their love of feminist literature and their mutual dislike of planning weddings. So I immediately loved them because I love feminist literature and the thought of planning a wedding is terrible. So, love them already. They moved away from each other and they decided to turn their hour-long conversations into a podcast because of course these conversations consisted of books. So I found them when I started just geeking out about books, and they're just a really cool podcast to listen to dive into the books with, and sometimes they bring the author on and get more in depth with it, and I really enjoy that. So by listening to this podcast, I've realized that they do a reading challenge every year, and I think that it's great. So this reading challenge I think is really cool because I think it pushes the reader to read books outside of their comfort zone and read books that they would normally not read or think about reading. I think that's important to do as an individual and a reader, to learn and hear stories from other people and other cultures, people with different ideas, different views. I just think it's very important to constantly be listening to other stories besides your own, So I think it's a really good list. The prompts are really awesome. So I'm not gonna go through all the prompts. There's 24 prompts because you don't want to sit here listening to me list off 24 prompts. There's also 2 bonus prompts. So I'm going to tell you about the books that I've read so far, and every month I'll check in with you and let you know what I'm reading for the challenge. I'll put the list, the challenge below, and the website to Reading Women where they have a downloadable list for the challenge where you can check that out, and then you can feel free to use it to track your progress or participate in, or just kind of ponder over whether or not you would like to do it, whatever you would like to do. The first book that I read for this challenge was an author, so the prompt was an author from Nigeria or New Zealand. I love the author Chimamanda Adichie. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly, but I love her books. I've read Americana, Half of a Yellow Sun, and for this prompt, I read Purple Hibiscus. And I thought it was super great, 5 out of 5 stars, very moving story. It's about a family who is extremely religious, but they have a father who is abusive and controlling, and their story of how they're trying to connect with other members of their family to get out of the situation and kind of move on. Very powerful. I read it in one day, in one afternoon, and I had to actually put it down and just cry because it was so it was just so powerful. Very powerful story. So definitely recommend that book for you. The next book I read was a book featuring a religion not your own. And I picked a book that was a collection of poems, and she is a Pakistani Muslim woman, and it's detailing how she lives her life in America. And I thought it was a really good, it was very short because they're poems, and I think it was 50 pages. But I thought some of the more really incredible poems were the ones that she wrote about 9/11 and how her life was impacted after that, and just really, really good stuff. The next prompt that I read for was a myth retelling. So I picked the book Circe by Madeline Miller. I would give this 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't super enjoy this book. I thought it was boring. I just didn't really enjoy it, to be honest. It's about a goddess, and her name is Circe, obviously. And she is the daughter of the sun, the god of the sun. And she's also a witch. And she does some stuff, so they cast her off onto her own island, and it's about her finding herself and, harnessing her power. And, it's a cool book in theory. I just couldn't love it. So, which is crazy because it was all over Bookstagram and it won all these awards on Goodreads, and everyone that I saw that's read it has loved it. So I'm not in the majority here for sure. So feel free to pick it up and read it. Let me know what you think if you do, but I just wasn't a fan. Okay, so the next book that I read was for the prompt for the 2018 Reading Women Shortlist Award. So the Reading Women put together their own books at the end of every year for an award list. And I actually was reading Educated by Tara Westover, and it's on that list. So I was like, perfect, I'm just going to use this for this prompt. I really love this book. It was so good. So I'm actually probably going to do a video about that one on its own. So I'm not going to touch much on that, but 5 out of 5 stars for sure. It was really good. Okay, so the last book that I'll talk about today is the book that I read for the prompt, a YA book by a woman of color, and I picked The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I don't read a lot of YA books, so this was a really great prompt for me. I really was able to get out of my comfort zone for this. And I saw so many things about The Hate You Give. I still haven't been able to see the movie, but I'm on the hold list at my library, so I'm very excited about that. But I really, really, really liked this book. Definitely 5 out of 5 stars. And I think this is a really good book as an example to read, to learn about something that you don't ever have to deal with, and you can learn from reading this story. So it's about a girl who lives in a mainly black neighborhood, and she herself is black, and she goes to a mainly all-white private school. And it's her struggle about, living these two different worlds. And then these worlds collide when she's involved in a traffic stop, and her friend, who is a black male, gets shot and killed by a police officer. And so she has to struggle how to handle her two selves in these two different worlds. And they definitely collide because, it's all over the news and people are talking about it in both places. And she has to learn how to make her two selves come into one person and fight for the justice for her friend. And I think it's a really, really great story. Definitely important to read. So I really, really encourage you to pick it up. And the author just came out with a new book, and I think it's called On the Come Up. So I think I'm actually gonna pick that up. I think it's another YA novel, but I just think she wrote really well, and I think it was just a really good opportunity to learn and listen to a story that teaches you something, for sure. I've put a link to the Reading Women website where you can download the list and just browse around their website, check out their podcast, all that jazz. So I really encourage you to, participate, maybe do some of the prompts. I know some people from Instagram that are just doing a handful of them. They're not trying to accomplish the whole thing. They're just, using it for when they don't know what to read. And it's a nice way to pick up a book when you don't know what to pick up. So thanks for joining me and talking with me about this challenge. I really enjoyed talking to you about it. Let me know if you decided to join or what you're reading right now and what you're really liking. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, I'm gonna finish this cup of coffee and get back to reading. All right, thanks for stopping by.